couple things. I can't think of a more successful lobbying effort in my lifetime. There is nothing more powerful than the gay lobby. They are brilliant, and it is all planned out, and it has been enacted perfectly. I'll prove it. It all started with Marshall Kirk and Hunter Madsen. They wrote a book called After the Ball: How America Will Conquer Its Fear and Hatred of Gays in the 90s. Two gay men, both Harvard educated. One was a marketing guy, one was a psychologist. So they sat down and made a whole plan on how to normalize homosexuality. It actually started with a magazine article that you can still read online. It's called The Overhauling of Straight America. Every quote we're going to share here today is from that magazine article. The Overhauling of Straight America was written in 1987. I'm not making any of this up. They had 6 goals. Well, let me say this first. The first goal was, in the 90s, to desensitize people to homosexuality as if it were merely just a preference, just like any other preferences. And that's what they said. The way they register, they being you, straight, white, evil person, or straight person in particular, the way you have different tastes for ice cream or sports teams. She likes strawberry, I like vanilla. He follows baseball, I follow football. No big deal. That's all homosexuality was to be. The goal wasn't to persuade straight people that homosexuality, again, another word they don't use, it wasn't to persuade straight people that homosexuality is good. The goal was just to normalize it, right? Just to get people to think it's a shrug of their shoulders, like, nah, whatever. And they said, if you can get people to shrug their shoulders about this issue, then your battle for legal and social rights is virtually won. So, how did the gays get there? They said it requires a large-scale media campaign. And they had to do 6 things in this campaign. Number 1, talk about gays and gayness as loudly and as often as possible. Again, to be clear, this is not me looking back saying this is what they did. This is them in the beginning saying this is what we have to do. And it's me looking back and saying this is exactly what they did. Talk about gays and gayness as loudly and as often as possible. The argument is that novelty makes people react negatively. But eventually, if you see something enough, you're like, oh, well, fine. The goal was to get people to say, oh, enough already. Do whatever you want. Sure, fine. Get married. Who cares? Just shut up. Go away. Fine, whatever. That was the goal. And the way to do that was through TV. They said the average American at the time, I'm sure it's even worse now, watches over 7 hours of TV a day. They said those hours open up a gateway into the private world of straights through which a Trojan horse might be passed. So far, gay Hollywood has provided our best covert weapon in the battle to desensitize the mainstream. Bit by bit, over the past 10 years, gay characters and gay themes have been introduced into TV programs and films. And now we see it in kids' programs, kids' cartoons. So if homosexuality can just be presented as normal, then it's the religious people who are seen as the backwards people and out of steps with the times and all that. And they said, listen, this worked with divorce, worked with abortion. We're just going to normalize it. And if it worked with those things, it can work with homosexuality as well. Number 2, portray gays as victims, not as aggressive challengers. We see this beautifully with the T's today. The T's are taking the same playbook that the L's and G's did years ago. So the T's, it's the transgenders who force themselves into women's bathrooms, and then they turn around and play the victim. How do you do that? They said in practical terms, this means that jaunty, mustachioed musclemen would need to be kept a very low profile in gay commercials, while sympathetic figures of nice young people, old people, and attractive women would be featured. And they said it goes without saying that groups on the furthest margin of acceptability, such as NAMBLA, that would be the North American Man-Boy Love Association, must play no part at all in such a campaign. But don't worry, that campaign is next. They're now called the minor attracted persons. But don't worry, they'll be portrayed as victims as well. Third thing they got to do, third thing they did, give the protectors a just cause. Meaning, don't have people, your allies, don't get people to defend homosexuality itself, like the act. Make it a human right. Make it a civil rights issue. They said the right to free speech, freedom of beliefs, freedom of association, due process, equal protection of laws, these should be the concerns brought to mind by our campaign. So we got to make gay rights as heroic of a battle as the civil rights campaign. We got to make gay rights a human right, a civil right, as American as apple pie. Number 4, make gays look good. This was in the very beginning of getting this all into schools. And when they first started getting it into schools, it was, here's a list. See, it started with LGBTQ history, right? Here's a list of prominent historical gay people and their contributions. That was the beginning of it. In no time, they said, a skillful and clever media campaign would have the gay community looking like the veritable fairy godmother to Western civilization. We wouldn't have America if it weren't for the gays. Make the victims, gay people, look good. And the inverse of that, number 5, make the victimizers look bad. The goal here was to make people against homosexuality look so nasty that the average person who just wants to be thought of as nice doesn't want anything to do with them. Because that's how most people think. That's our modern religion today. We're going to talk to Aaron McIntyre in a little bit about our modern religion. But our main modern religion's goal, the greatest virtue, is to be nice. So no one's really looking at the issue. We're just looking at who's mean and who's nice. Oh, the gay people, look how nice they are. I know Ellen DeGeneres. She's funny. She's nice. She's the queen of nice. Mean. Look at that pastor over there. He's mean. They said the public should be shown images of ranting homophobes whose secondary traits and beliefs disgust middle America, like the KKK demanding that gays should be burned alive or castrated, bigoted Southern ministers drooling with hysterical hatred to a degree that looks both comical and deranged, menacing punks, thugs, and convicts speaking coolly about the FAGS they have killed or would like to kill, a tour of Nazi concentration camps where homosexuals were tortured and gassed. That's the people against little old us. You don't want to be on their team, do you? And finally, number 6, solicit funds. Get money. They said there's between 10 and 15 million gay Americans. That's what they said. Now, in 1990, that would be about 5% of the population. Right now, Gen Z is 20%. They say that Gen Z self-identifies 20% as LGBTQ. But their point was, if each gay person donated $2, they'd have a ton of money. And they're like, hey, gay people, give us money. You don't have any kids. You got plenty of money to give. So that was in 1987. And the gay lobby followed it to a T. And now the Ts, the transgenders, are using the same playbook to great success, by the way. Another reason why the gay lobby was so successful recently is Selma envy. It was a term coined by Hans Fien. In social studies class, Millennials, all through middle school and high school, learned about the civil rights heroes of the 60s. And we were told that there was one way that you can be as righteous as those people. Look how amazing they are. They're the best people ever. And you can be like them. You just have to fight injustice for a marginalized group. And then came the gays. And it was perfect. It was perfect for Millennials to support because it required nothing from us. There was no need for a financial sacrifice. The gays had plenty of money. There was no need for any effort. Have a parade every so often or something on Instagram. There was no need for moral consistency. I can still sleep around, doesn't matter, and be an ally for the cause. It was perfect for Millennials, and it worked. And now, this guy is the face of Bud Light, and 20% of Gen Z is gay. What? Hey, I'm Mike Slater. Thanks so much for watching that clip. If you want to see more truth like that, please subscribe to the first YouTube page. Just hit subscribe below.